So, good morning, everybody. Happy Aloha Friday, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. Here are a couple of giggles. There's nothing funny about Aloha Friday. Letting you know that Aloha Friday is something we celebrate each Friday. Well, I do anyway, wherever I am, certainly at the PSG groups. And so if you're new to our PSG group or visiting us for the very first time, ask you that or let you know that no, there's nothing wrong with your eyeglasses. Yes, I am wearing a Hawaiian shirt. And if you see me out and about, I may go to the supermarket later, I will be wearing that as well. And also I looked at the calendar and I found that today is National Student Nurse Day. And I thought that was really just special. You know, we're going through a pandemic, a medical and health crisis pandemic. And this is a day that celebrates young people that are studying to become nurses. And so certainly we need to honor everybody in the healthcare profession. These are people that are very brave, certainly, and looking to help us as much as possible during a very stressful and difficult time medically. So nice that there's a day to celebrate the student nurses, and hopefully this day to honor everybody in healthcare. Just as we get ourselves started, I'm going to just remind you, please put your computer on mute. On the lower left corner of your screen, I'm sorry, the center of the screen, I believe, there's a button called Mic, M-I-C. That button is to mute your computer or your phone. We're hearing some background noises, and we just want to make this a pleasant experience for everybody. Once I introduce Marty in just a moment, I will start muting everybody. That's the electronic version, I guess, of me shaking my finger at you, so just be a little bit aware of that. And I'm not going to mute Marty. Don't worry, Marty. You'll get the place to yourself. But I want to let you know some of the resources that we also have for PSG of Mercer County. We do have a LinkedIn group. And so we do invite you to search for our LinkedIn group. It is called PSG of Mercer County. So do make sure when you search for the PSG of Mercer County, you look for the group. Someone years ago created a PSG of Mercer County user. Hopefully you can connect with them. That's not the same thing. I don't know who manages that. Look for the group. Our group has over 1,500 members, and they're all people that have gone through our program before. So these are not just people that are connecting because they want to. These are people that have been job seekers that have been to our in-person meeting before and now our virtual meetings. So go check it out. We have over 1,500 people, members from LinkedIn. So that means there's a good chance that if you are connected to someone through the group, or as a first or second degree, and they're in the group, and you reach out to them for some sort of assistance, there's a good chance they're going to respond. I know that a lot of times when we try and reach out to connections and people that we don't know well, they don't respond very well. Typically the people in our PSG group will. And also it's a great place to share job leads if you ever find them, ask questions of the group. You can even type in your elevator pitch to introduce yourself and hopefully make a connection. So please join the group. The way you join is you go to the group, you search for it, you click the join button or join group, I think it's in the upper right corner, and you will be placed in pending status. We don't let just anybody in the group. We're gonna vet to make sure that you've been to one of our meetings. Now, if I haven't met you before, or if you've been on this virtual meeting once or twice and we haven't met, and I just see a name I don't know, I may send an email just asking, you know, why are you joining? It's a private group. Or what you can also do, you can send me an email ahead of time or when you join, send it to psgofmercercounty@gmail.com, psgofmercercounty@gmail.com. Just introduce yourself to me and let me know that you signed up for the group. Because again, I need a way to validate anyone requesting for the group that you're a PSG of Mercer County member. We do also have a website. We mentioned a little bit earlier. Dom mentioned a little bit earlier as well. It's over 120 pages, 120 web pages of content in total. There's a tremendous amount of information there for any job seeker. We have job search pages. There are job search pages that cover Mercer County and the 6 border counties. And one of the border counties is actually overseas in Bucks County. And so those are all borders to Mercer County. In those job board pages, we don't have job listings, but we do have lists of companies. And those lists of companies are all in each of the counties. These are companies that do hire in those counties. Some of them are big companies, a lot of them are small companies. They're broken into 12 different categories like healthcare and financial services and education and such. And even if you don't find jobs posted there of interest, you can use these pages to make a targeted company list, especially if you're targeting to stay in the kind of Mercer County geographic area. I know it must be about 20, 25 miles in circumference, so in diameter. So go take a look at that. We don't really have job listings. We have links to those companies' career pages. And so hopefully they're keeping those pages current and active. Also, just want to remind you of the ground rules. So I'm going to be turning over this meeting to Marty Latman. He's our presenter. And so he will be sharing a slide deck with us. The slide deck is on our website right now. So if you are someone that can't really see our, the people or this screen very well, but you still have a computer connection or internet, you can actually go to our website, psgofmercercounty.org. psgofmercercounty.org. Then on the right side of the screen, there's a link. There's a whole sidebar there. There's a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. Click on that, and then that page, the very first link is going to be Marty's slide deck. So if you can't follow the slides interactively right now on the screen, you can follow them if you have a computer connection, internet connection. So go take a look at that. As a reminder, please keep your audio on mute. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a little button called mic or microphone. There's also one for the camera. That's optional if you want to keep your camera on or off. And some people, we've been in confinement now for 7, 8 weeks. If we're having bad hair days, we're keeping the camera off maybe. That's up to you. But please keep your audio on mute. I will be going through and making sure everybody is on mute if you are not complying with that. Now, save all the questions for a couple of places. Please don't turn on your microphone and interrupt us. We're going to have a lot of people. Last week we had 110 people. We've got 88 online right now. It's going to be disruptive. So we're going to use chat. And chat is on the upper right corner of your screen. If you go to the upper right corner, you see a little icon of a couple of people with the number 88. That's all the participants. And next to that is a little like cartoon bubble. There's probably some number there and so many chats are going on right now. So click that and the chat window will open. You can chat to everybody. You can chat to just one person. And since we'll be getting a lot of questions from that or anticipate a lot, I ask you keep your chat primarily questions for Marty or for PSG. A lot of us early on as we started were using it for introducing ourselves to people or sharing maybe LinkedIn addresses. Please don't use it for that. But the way it'll work is we do have an intermission. Is it one intermission, Marty, or two?
We have one. We'll have
one in the middle. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Marty has put in like an intermission or Q&A time in the middle of the presentation, and we'll take a break then, and you'll be able to ask those questions. I'll be reading them to Marty. And then, of course, at the end, we'll have another Q&A time, and you can also ask questions then before we wrap up the program. So that's the rules of the house. And
Hey, Dave.
I'm sorry.
David, it's Tom. Can I just add one thing before you start? You mentioned May 8th. Today is also VE Day, Victory Europe Day. So if you have a grandfather or neighbor that participated in World War II, you may want to say thanks.
Okay.
For the great generation.
Good, thank you. Yes, certainly something to honor for VE Day of many years ago. Yep, my grandfather served during World War II. Both my grandfathers. Okay, so Marty will now be able to share his slides. And again, please keep your computers and microphones and phones on mute. But I am just very pleased this morning to welcome our presenter, Marty Latman. Marty Latman, called by many people as the best networker they know, is a people helper and matchmaker. He's an executive director of Latman Advisory Services, LLC. From professional career coaching and development to business consulting to financial advisement, Latman Advisory Services is dedicated to helping you achieve your personal or business goals. Marty takes a collaborative approach as he works closely to meet with the unique needs and goals of each client. Marty has been a guest speaker to many networking groups where he has discussed various career development topics, including networking, interviewing techniques, and advanced career planning strategies. He's spoken to numerous local and national organizations, including several annual national conferences. Some of these groups are the Institute of Management Accountants, Financial Executives International, Financial Executive Networking Group, Media Communication Association International, Westchester Networking Organization, Pi Beta Kappa, the Wharton Club, and many others. Marty has been a guest on the Rider University radio show Your Career is Calling and CFO Studio, where he has discussed network skills and how networking advances your career. He's also spoken to students and alumni at several universities in the New York, New Jersey metro area. Marty is a CPA and graduate of the State University of New York at Albany. PSG of Mercer County is always welcome to present the best networker I know, Mr. Marty Latman.
Thank you, David. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Looking at everybody who's here, there's some people that I know, and it's glad to see you back. There are other people that I see who I've never met before. So I'd say welcome. If you want to connect with me, it'd be my pleasure. I'm here to help you. What we'll talk about today, obviously, is the elephant in the room, ageism. And we'll go through this. It exists. It happens. You may have experienced it. You may be aware that you've experienced it. At the same time, you may not be aware that it has affected your career. We'll go through there and give you some fuels from thought to reflect on what's happened to you. And you might say, gee, that was me. This is what happened. So let's go through it. We talk about it. I thank David for this wonderful, his pet elephant that he sent me. And it really enhances what we're going to talk about.
I sent you a different elephant, but this is a nice one.
Well, I replaced what you sent me. This was a friend of the friend.
Oh, okay,
So,
good.
Okay.
I'll turn my mic off.
All right, let's see what happens over here. Hopefully we can advance the pages over here. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about, everybody. I'm going to talk about what ageism really is. I mean, we've heard the term a number of times, but do we really know what it is? We'll talk about the perceptions of ageism, what other people think. What are the signs that it exists? And this, some of you might be surprised. And, everybody hear me? We got something on the line.
Somebody still has your computer voice on, your mic on. Barbara
Okay.
Lockley, okay.
Let's go. We'll talk about how companies have really used ageism to get rid of the older workers. We'll talk about the tools that you need to combat this ageism situation. And on this, you'll see some things that it's my opinions. You can take it for what, if you like it. If you don't like it, that's up to you. But I found that this works as I've experienced that. As you can see, I have been affected by ageism. We'll talk about how to present your age as a strength as opposed to a weakness, and how you can find a job today under the situation that we have, not only with the economy the way it is, but also as ageism affects you. And then we'll talk about some of the types of jobs that you could look at and how to find different types of positions. And we'll talk about how to avoid age discrimination from your resume. A number of you might have things on your resume that really just unfortunately points out age or ageism. And then we'll conclude it. As David says, we'll have a break, probably right after we talk about combating ageism, and then we'll have one at the end after we conclude. So buckle your seatbelts, everybody. Nancy, it was good to see you smiling during this whole thing. I guess you like David's jokes, and I guess you like his shirt. And we'll take it from there. All right, let's talk about ageism. You've heard the term, and then the question is, what really is it? And it's really employment discrimination. That's what it is. And this happens today, and it has happened for a number of years, more so than you might think. This is what the government puts in as discrimination for age. You can be treated unfairly due to race, nationality, origin, gender, disability, religion, sexual orientation, or age. These are the things where you will see number of employees filing lawsuits against different organizations, the government stepping in at times, and also, talking to the companies about the problems that they've had, that they've discriminated. But when we talk about ageism, per se, ageism really, the term came about and was recognized, believe it or not, in 1968. At that time, Dr. Robert Butler, who was a Columbia graduate here in New York City, and he's now the founding director of the National Institute of Aging. And what Dr. Butler said in '68 was, ageism is a systematic stereotyping of and discrimination against older people because they are old. And it sounds somewhat like an oxymoron that, older people because they are old. Well, what's the question is old? And, a lot of people might be thinking, well, ageism starts when you're 55, 60, 70, due to the workforce that we have today. We have people also in their 80s who are currently working. But surprisingly, what Dr. Butler found, and this was in 1968, that ageism starts when you are 40. That's 40 years old. So think about that. Okay. Another thing when it comes to ageism, some people refer to it as a gray ceiling. And as you can tell from my picture, I fall under that title. I am very proud of that. All the gray that I have here, I have totally earned, and through blood and sweat and battles, etc. But it's here, and I use it as a badge of courage, so to speak. And, think about this. Coming back to Dr. Butler's definition of ageism, it's for people who are old. Well, the question is, what's old? And how do people think of you as being old? Ageism really is the perception of others of you, of somebody who's old, and these are some of the things that they think about. And as we go through this, question yourself, does this apply to you? Because this is what people think. They think that you're less motivated than the younger workers. You're less willing to engage in new training. You resist change. You're not healthy. You cannot adapt to new technology. Does everybody have an answer that, yeah, this is you? Think about it. You cannot relate to younger workers. You cannot work with younger people. You're no longer creative. You're no longer loyal to the company. And you demand a higher pay. If you go through all of this, probably your answer is probably no to most of these, if not all of these, with the exception of the last one. And generally what will happen, it's one thing to say you will demand a higher pay, as opposed to you have been earning a higher pay. So the demand for a higher pay is questionable. As we get older, so to speak, our needs or what we want change. Some people, it's no longer that they need to earn a high-paying position. They want to interact with people. They want to make a difference in the world. So there's different things than just higher pay. But this is what people generally think of you if they consider you old. And I believe most of us have said, no, this is not really me. And what's the signs that ageism exists today in the workforce? Take a look at the companies. They are only hiring younger employees. They're promoting mainly the younger employees. Now, when you were working, was this the case? Training and development opportunities are offered to younger employees, not to the older people. They plan activities for younger employees. And the employee handbook addresses all different discriminations other than age. Age seems to be left off in that handbook, And generally, there's also a situation where there's harassment towards older employees who have been ill or absent or late. Before, everybody would let it slide. For a younger person, they had a bad day last night. Don't worry about it. They'll make it up. For you, if you're older, why'd you come in late? Are you ill? You don't have the energy? There's different ways how they could harass you. And then this is an interesting thing to notice. And when you look for different companies who you may want to work for, check their website and see if their website has just younger people at the website. That's a hint, so to speak, that the company only wants younger individuals. I can tell you years ago, and I'm talking probably 8, 9 years ago, there was a hospitality organization up here in actually Morris County. And what happened is they had their issues, and a number of people said to me, you could really help this organization out with your background, et cetera. And, I looked at the company, did some research, and I would agree, I could have. However, the company would never really speak with me. And when I did a deeper dive and was talking to different people about it, I noticed that the company executives across the board were in their late 30s, and the people they were hiring were generally between 23 and 32. So I was not going to fit in, and that's fine, okay? It's their loss, not mine. That company eventually went bankrupt. The reason for it is that they really didn't have the wisdom that older people bring to the table. So just think about that. But these are some of the signs you can look at for companies that will discriminate because of age. And there's different ways how companies have gotten rid of the older people. This way they'd avoid the discrimination suits. They've come up with things like your job's eliminated. They've had layoffs, and the layoffs, they go generally from seniority. The older people, the longer you've been with the company, they're going to let you off. They reprimand for things everyone does. Performance reviews, which once were stellar, are no longer that way. You're losing your touch. You're not as good as you used to be. What's wrong? There's another thing where, I think you should retire now. If you don't really, you might be subject to losing your pension. Offer early retirement packages to people over a certain age. These last two, I could tell you, I know firsthand, I've seen this happen, and it happened to my wife. And she used to work for a well-known company. They were in the jewelry business. People know who they are. They're well-known. And what they said was this, and this is now probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It was, the company had a year end of January 30th, 31st. But what happens, most of their business was done during Black Friday and the end of Christmas. And then January was the period of returns. And what they did to the workforce is that in mid-October, they sent out packages or notices to certain individuals. And actually there was 861 of them. And basically what it said was, if you are an employee and you're 50 years or older and 10 years working with the company, or if you are 55 and older and have worked with the company for 5 years or more, what we want to let you know, we're offering you this one-time package. And there was, it indicated what was included, etc. With the caveat that said this is a one-time offer. If people, what we will do at the end of January, we will be reassessing the job responsibilities and the performance of the organization. And in our organization, everyone's position is subject to change. And we cannot guarantee people's position that they will have the current position at the end of January. So we recommend you take this package. Well, of the package, about 852 people, I believe, took the package. The other people, the few who did not, by the end of February, they were no longer with the company. And I'm telling you, this was a Fortune almost 50 company. So it happens today. There's also mandatory retirement age. That's used to be a big thing. I don't believe that it's really in the workforce as much today, but just think about it. Up until the day of retirement, you're a contributor to the organization. You really have helped the organization grow, etc. And the day after your retirement, when you leave, if the mandatory retirement age, the next day, you're out the door and you cannot, contribute to the organization. What kind of sense does that make? But just think about it. A reduction in job duties, reductions in the hours that you work, denying promotions or opportunities for advancements to those older people, and harassment of any type. And this is how organizations, and even today, how they get rid of older people and avoid the discrimination laws. Now, the question I ask you, has this happened to you in your career? Just think about it. Okay, is there any questions at the moment?
Okay, so let me go to chat and let's see. There's some commentary about the pre-presentation. Is Salesforce training on their site? I guess so. All right. A little bit of banter back and forth, which was all good. So this is an opportunity. Hopefully some of you can begin entering the chat. On the upper right side, if you haven't seen it before, are a couple of icons. One looks like a gear or a star all the way to the right. The next one kind of in the middle looks like a cartoon bubble. And it's an opportunity for you to, that's chat, It's an opportunity to type a question. You click that button, the chat window will open. There's a place where it says enter your message. Okay, let's see. Well, this is an open-ended question from Frank. As an employee, what can you do?
We're going to talk about showing your strengths to the organization. And you can voice your concern.
Okay, from Sybil, I was let go due to exactly what you said. In an interview, I can't sound bad about my former employer, so saying I was laid off is the best. Is that correct?
Yes, it's one of the ways to look at it. You never want to be in a situation where you're going to badmouth your previous employer. You could come up with different reasons. You know, if it's been a layoff, especially if there are other people in the same environment that you were in, that there was this period of time where a bunch of people were laid off due to company performance or different change in strategies of the companies. Different ways to talk about it, but yeah, you could talk about being laid off under those circumstances.
Okay, thank you. And Grant has a question. So how do you recognize these signs? Which I guess were the ones in your one of your earlier slides.
Look around. Look around what's happening in the organization. You can see it. Look in your department. Who's been promoted? Who's been, given the opportunity to do further training? It's right in front of you. Pay attention to what's really going on and recognize what's really happening.
Lucius has a question. Has there been any discussion of additional legislation to address this issue?
There has been, but especially in today's environment, with the virus and everything, a lot of that stuff has been put on the back burner. But different, not only on a federal level, but also on the state levels, there has been discussions on that. I know in the New York metro area. But as I say, that's been on the back burner right now with everything else going on.
And what I remember, Marty, I was just looking quickly, Hannon Isaacs is not on the call. I think on the federal level, age discrimination is not allowed. I don't know how that flows down to or impacts the states. Hannon is an employment law attorney, and I believe that I remember him telling me that. So certainly that's been discussed, if not already implemented on the federal level.
Generally, if it's on the federal level, that generally will carry through to the state level on a discrimination type situation.
Okay. Kevin is asking, what does human resources say when a future employer calls to see about your job there? I guess you mean the...
Well, it depends upon the size of the organization, basically, but generally the HR individuals, they've been really regimented to say, this is who you are, this was the position you held, and this is the time you started, and this is the time you ended. And generally, that's all they'll talk about. If you were at a higher level from the organization and you had a severance package, in all likelihood, you probably in your severance package negotiated on what they would say on if someone called for a reference on you. But if there's nothing nothing agreed upon or written down, they'll just give the facts, as we say.
Okay. And Barbara is asking a question. Webcams seem to be out of stock. Is it acceptable to conduct interviews over the phone these days, or will you be considered old? Also, I'm concerned about visual presence, haircuts during the interview.
David, we talked about the haircuts the other day.
Yeah, I wanted to know how your barber is doing.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, in today's environment, all right, let's look at it this way. There's a lot of visuals going on, the virtual meetings, virtual interviewing today. You have to look your best during these presentations. These are professional, as if you were going to an office, and dress accordingly. if you feel that there's been discrimination against you because of age, I would suggest you do research on the organization. As I said before, check the website, try to find different people in your network who work at the company or have worked at the company, and speak to them about it. Then it always comes down to the question that I say, do you want to work for a company that will discriminate against you? And I generally feel not for me, and I just move on to another organization.
Another thing is webcams, you can find them. I just bought a new one for myself. Amazon still has several in stock. You may not find the top brands or well-known brands, but you can find some. I am finding they are a little expensive. The one I bought, a Logitech, I actually bought it on eBay. It was the one of two models I wanted, and it was almost twice the posted price that Logitech had on their website. They are available. And I think, Marty, I wonder what your thought is. It's also people know right now we're not getting haircuts. So I think that's okay. If you're concerned about do you look old or you look great, that's a different sentiment. But, I think all you have to say is, yes, I'd be happy to have the phone call. The video call. Just know I haven't been able to get a haircut for 6 weeks, and prepare them for it.
Look, as you say, people are aware what's going on here. All right. I actually, the person who cuts my hair, he called me the other day, in that when he first called me when this whole thing started, because he filed for unemployment and he wasn't getting it, and so he asked me to help him get his unemployment. And we chatted at that time, and then he called me the other day that told me he finally got through to unemployment and he's getting his checks. And we were talking about the situation about when they get back to work with the haircuts. And he said he's been calling all his clients, and it's coming back to what we used to call Beatlemania, okay, with the haircuts. So a lot of people, when you look at it, hair is longer all the way, all around, and just look well groomed. Do the best you can under the circumstances. As David says, to do on these virtual meetings that you have, interviews, I refer you to, there's a book that I have. There's a guy, Paul Bailo, his name is B-A-I-L-O. And Paul, a number of years back, he lives here in New Jersey, and I believe it's in Marlborough, New Jersey. He put out a book, The Essential Digital Interview Book. And it's about 200 pages, this book. And it indicates throughout the book on the importance on virtual interviewing, lighting, the cameras, the location where you offer your interview, the background. It's quite detailed, and it's a really interesting book. You might want to, take a look at it. It's a number of years old. It's from careerpress.com, and it really points out different things that could make you look better on the screen, so to speak. But look, you're not going to change your looks that much. Between what you look at and on the screen, and then when you show up to work. So just keep it in mind. It's the other pieces that, not your looks per se, but how you can make the screen or have your appearance on screen look better through lighting, etc. And the cameras, Dave, I'm surprised that you were able to get it. I can tell you that several weeks ago, when everybody was going virtual, I was on a number of sites, and I was looking for a new camera, and I was looking for a new headset, and the backlog for all of those were, especially on Amazon, they couldn't give you a delivery date.
That's right.
So,
And as you were giving your answer, I did quickly look at Amazon.com, and there are a number of different brands that are available through Amazon right now. But you're right. A few weeks ago, when I was looking, the major retailers, Amazon did not have a lot of inventory. I guess it's catching up. But I ordered it through someone it was brand new on eBay, and that's what worked out. And actually, I found a lot of third-party sites for disinfecting wipes and solutions. I found 2 companies that service the tattoo industry, and they had disinfecting wipes, and it's the same ingredients as Clorox and Lysol, and I ordered wipes and sprays from them. It's, medical brands. So there's ways to search if you get a little creative. Sorry, a little off topic. Couple more questions. Are there sectors of the economy or companies where the experience that comes with age is valued?
yes, and we're going to go through that
Okay.
very shortly.
Dominic asks, are you going to discuss the 800-pound gorilla in the room? Well, I thought we'd talk about the 800-pound elephant, but that's okay. Employer-based healthcare that uses third-party insurance companies who in turn use actuarial tables based on age to determine insurance rates. That's a killer for the 40-plus people.
No, I'm not going to discuss it. Okay. Look, when it comes to medical insurance, from a company standpoint, what they look at, it's across the board. The insurance company looks at the census that the company has to determine the rates that they will charge. Also, what they do, they look at the prior experience generally over the last 3 years. And, they really average all this out. Now, there are certain places where you might have one individual who, let's say, unfortunately had cancer and had to go through some really rough times and treatment for cancer, and that may sway the numbers, the claim numbers, but different medical insurance companies sometimes carve those out for a different company. So it depends on the company, depends upon how many participants will be in the plan and what the census reveals, but it's not necessarily on age.
A question from Richard, related, a little on the tangent. How do you answer the question, why do you leave when you were forced out of your job?
Well, it depends how you were forced out of your job.
Oh.
But you have to determine. Okay, if it's because you did something wrong, well, that's a different way how to handle it. But if there's been a group of people who have been let go at the same time, you talk about the company had either cash flow problems, performance problems for the organization, a strategy change. They had a layoff to reduce costs. There's different things that you have to talk about.
COVID is real and many organizations have downsized, but are companies using this crisis as a way to get rid of older employees? Frank's recent personal experience saw a position eliminated and any divisional changes were persons 60 plus.
To some extent, the answer would be yes, but they're doing it in a subtle way. It's really interesting because now let's look at it. What everyone is saying is that COVID affects the older individuals more. So companies really have to look and say, all right, I have to make accommodations for those older people, especially. I have to test them possibly more often. I have to give them some special types of attention in the workplace, etc. But at the same time, let's look at it. The older people who may be subjected to COVID in a more drastic way are somewhat reluctant to go back to work under the circumstances. So it's like, well, are they going to show up? They're not going to show up. What's the situation? So it varies on both ends. And I envision as we continue to progress through this situation, there will be numerous lawsuits that are raised because of that discrimination issue.
Gary has a similar observation and question. One time when I was downsized, the company published a list of us affected by the restructuring, and the list included our age. What do you think of this? Was it legal?
Probably not legal, and I think you had an opportunity to do a class action suit. All right. But look, the issue that you have when you try to sue an employer is that there's a cost involved. There's bad publicity, not only for the company, but it also affects you and you're looking for your next position.
And what I believe is also a requirement when there is a layoff of a number of people, I don't know what that number is, as opposed to one. The company does have to report certain demographic information to the state when they lay off a number of people. And my understanding is age is among that information. So
yes, it's under the WARN Act. There's two WARN Acts. One is for the state, and there's also one on the federal government. And it's based upon the layoff of a certain number of employees or a percentage of the total workforce for the company in that location. All right, generally what happens when they do that, they have to give a 90-day notice. On a federal level, I think on the state level here in New Jersey, I think it's 60 days.
So not knowing the details of the question of the situation Gary was in, it was probably appropriate that they collect this and we'll just call report it. Not sure what their requirement is to let everybody else in the company know, or, I don't know what that situation is, but so it may not have been illegal. We just don't know all the situation. Padma, how do you bridge health insurance before Medicare age? COBRA is too expensive. That's another 800-pound gorilla, a little outside this presentation. You may want to look at Affordable Care Act, the healthcare exchange, to see if that's an option for you. Marty, I'm curious what you think.
I would tend to agree with you. The bridge, COBRA is very expensive generally. So, the options are very limited in today's environment, unfortunately. But, you look on, as you say, Dave, look on the exchanges, see what you could get. It's a bad situation no matter what you look at, unfortunately.
And by the way, the healthcare exchange, which is healthcare.gov, also known as the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, is not insurance. It's guidelines for the states to follow. So you get on healthcare.gov. In New Jersey, I believe there are 3 insurers that currently participate. And then New Jersey also has a Medicaid for people that are below a certain income and asset level. I don't know all the details about it, but it is free to sign up for healthcare.gov. The insurers typically have 3 or 4 levels, some that have bigger deductibles and some have lower deductibles, and the pricing is different. So you'll be able to compare plans there. So that's the last question for this intermission, Marty. Okay. So if you're ready to move on, I think we are too.
Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the tools that you need to combat ageism. Here they are, in my opinion, at the moment. There could be some other ones, but these are some of the things to look at. And number 1 is a positive attitude. It's what I call ABP. To always be positive, everybody. You have to look at it and say, it's a great day. I got all this energy. I'm ready to work today. How can I help you? Let's solve some problems. So you have a positive attitude. You need a powerful resume. And we'll talk about that to some extent. And the resume, as I say, really, you want to write your resume so you do not broadcast your age. We'll talk about a powerful LinkedIn profile. And you need a clear focus. Okay, these are the companies that I'm looking for. There's a reason for it. These are the companies that I have researched, and they could use my skill set, and they do not discriminate, it appears, about age, and they welcome older people into the fold. They work multi-generation groups, etc. So you're going to need that. You need the energy. Everyone should have that. Do your exercises. Keep on, taking your walks. Do your yoga, whatever you want to do. Do some running, but stay energetic. And the next one is really important, and this is where a lot of people fall down, where ageism could really affect your performance because you're not up to date with technology. Technology today is extremely important, and while we are somewhat home and sheltered in place right now, it's a great time to really strengthen some of your skill sets. And when it comes to technology, especially what we're doing right now, there's different platforms that we're using for social media. For as we have this meeting here, we're on GoToMeeting. We also have Zoom that we talked about. You have Skype. You have FaceTime. You have Teams. There's all different platforms. What I suggest you do is start working with all of them to get a feel of what they're all about. And this way you can become somewhat of a guru on some of these platforms, and that will be added to your skill set. At the same time, you could use these platforms to have mock interviews among your friends, to do trial and error on how you look, and how you could adjust the screen to make you look younger. I can tell you, before this meeting right now, my wife had she had to do for her French final in college, she had to have a conversation with an individual, and we did it over Skype. So it was between me and her via Skype, and that's been submitted to her professor. You get a list of target companies that you want to try to get into. There's different ways to find different target companies. You want to have a fresh look, well groomed, even long hair today. That's going to be the fashion. It's coming back for a little while. You want to dress accordingly. You want to have the proper tools. When I talk about that, I'm talking about things like computer that you have to have. What you might want to do is have an iPad or a tablet. Even if you don't really know how to use it that well, if you just know how to turn it on and turn it off, that's what's important. You can start an interview by saying, but before we start, let me just turn off my tablet. Okay. Or you can use it for taking notes, etc. And then the other part, which comes back to the list that we had of all the perceptions, you have to look for a reasonable compensation package. You have to know, okay, that in the position that you will take, if it is at lower responsibilities, you should not expect to get the same pay that you had before at a higher level of responsibilities. So you have to be reasonable on the compensation package that you'd be looking for. At the same time, when it comes to the compensation package, there are other things that you may consider than just salary. For instance, when we talked about if they provide for you medical insurance, where let's say they'll pay more of a higher portion of your medical insurance, or the benefits on the medical insurance that they have is a lot better than you had before in your other employer. So these are things that you have to look at to combat the ageism scenario. And how do you present your age as a strength? What you want to talk about is that these items, you're a steady worker, you're reliable, you always show up to work, they know they can count on you to get the job done, you have the experience that they're looking for, you've done that before, you're battle tested, Okay, you've been through it, you know how to do it, you have a strong work ethic. The job has to be done by a certain day. I know I'm going to get it done. Okay, you want to once again be healthy, and you could talk about, if you're hiking or running, etc. You could also mentor other people. There could be a transition where, they look at you and say, listen, I could get this work done for you right now because based upon my history, and you go into your stories about how valuable you are, where you solve other company problems. And you can say, also what I can do is that I can I can mentor those other people who are coming through the ranks so that, they could end up doing the same thing that I'm doing. You want to be loyal, not a job hopper, so to speak. In today's environment, generally the younger generation, they really have a history where they're jumping from job to job. And you've been in a situation where, no, you want to work for this company. This is your last stop, so to speak, in your career. You want to help them out. You haven't really jumped from job to job. You're up to date on technology. You want to talk about it. You also want to say wear it. I mean, you could have an Apple Watch. Okay, you could have a Fitbit when you go in or you talk to somebody on an interview. You could also talk about situations how you work with other generations, the younger generations, and what you've done in the past where you worked before with the multi-generations. And you also have a maturity and a focus. You don't have outside distractions with some of the younger work that some of the younger workers have. For instance, Thursday night, you're not wondering what you're going to do over the weekend, what date you're going to have, or where you're going to go. And these are some of the things that I suggest you stress when you have your conversations. This is really showing that age has its benefits, especially, that you have the experience that they need. They do not have to invest in education for you in this type of work that they want to have done. You've done it before. You can do it again for them at a lower cost because they don't have to train you. And you have the results in the past to show that they're not taking a chance. The best way to put it, I love my friend Abby Kohut, and everybody I believe knows Abby. We talked about this, and there's one individual who Abby had at one of her sessions said this. He was in an interview, and the age was really coming up in the discussion. And the guy said to the interviewer, you know what, let me ask you this. Under the circumstances, if you were in a plane, took off, and all of a sudden the plane lost its engines, do you want to have somebody who's working here who's had, the pilot had 2-year experience or 3-year experience? Or do you want to have somebody like Solly Sullenberger who's had 30 years experience? You tell me. I could get the job done for you. So think about that during your interview. How do you find a job today? You say you're old, where are the jobs? Play up your experience. Talk about your success stories. Be positive. Look your best. Talk about this. Look for young, growing, or startup companies. They need the leadership that we provide. They need the experience that we provide. They need the reliability that we can provide. And you can also look on the other end of the spectrum, those companies that are depressed, or the companies are moving to another location. If they're moving, you might want to say, well, why do I want to look for a company like that? Well, if they're moving, generally what will happen, those people who are not moving with the company, they're out there looking for jobs for another place. Meanwhile, you could come in and settle this situation. You could step in and get the job done. At the same time, you never know. They could then, based upon your experience with them, offer you a position where they relocate. But it gives you an opportunity to get back in the job hunt, so to speak, in a position with your age. Look for companies that hire multi-generational personnel. And you can do that by talking to your network, looking at different company websites. These are some of the ways to find it. Use the current terminology that is common today. I mean, you don't want to talk about that it was as simple as sliced bread. People look at you, what are you talking about? Everybody has sliced bread. Well, in the good old days, you used to slice it yourself. So be up to what the common language is talking about. Stay current in your profession. Take your continuing education credits. Okay. Attend different association group meetings. Attend the different seminars they have. Be current on what's going on today. Be tech savvy. Know at least the Microsoft products. The pivot tables if you want. That's really a hot item. Get on Twitter. Even if if you don't tweet, get an account and see what's going on. See how what the threads are. There's a lot of jobs out on Twitter. If you look at it. There's also, we talked about being current, learning about Zoom and other technologies that you have. Use LinkedIn. You got to have a complete profile in LinkedIn, and that includes a picture. We have a lot of bashful people. In your picture, do yourself a favor if you haven't already. Get a professional picture, a headshot. I've seen pictures on LinkedIn of people with sunglasses, people with their dogs, their cats on their boat. That's not appropriate for LinkedIn profile. Just a headshot professionally done. Okay. If you don't have a picture up there, it's going to be detrimental to you in people searching. Consider temporary or part-time employment. Interview as a consultant. Ask questions. I call them the W questions. Where is the company going in the next 2 years? I understand that the company is coming out with a new product line. What do you think will be the impact of the product line on the company's profitability, on its hiring practices? Ask questions. Do your research, see what the company is doing, and then put together questions that would be from a consultant standpoint. Use your professional organization for networking. Networking. That's what we need. And call upon your network to help you. Look at your history on who you worked with years ago. And if you haven't connected with them, connect with them now. You'd be surprised how people have, progressed through the ranks. Just as you have, the people who you worked with 15 years ago might be in the same leadership roles that you are in today. So utilize them, reconnect with them. Use your past and present colleagues, as I said. Volunteer. It's great to volunteer. There's no gatekeepers. People are there for the same type of mission, so to speak. You get to talk to people, get to know them. It really helps. Do your exercise. And surround yourself with younger people. 10 different seminars. I used to say go to the gym. Today you really cannot do that because of where we are, but they have online gyms or sessions where you could join with other people. The types of jobs for me. Now, some of you might be asking, well, what can I do? Now, I'm going to tell you, when I look at it over here, and I'm coming down over here, you have to make a determination. Do you want to work for the small, medium, or large companies? Generally, the small and medium-sized companies hire older people. The large companies generally hire younger people. So you might have to have a mind change as to, I've always worked for a large company. Maybe I have to change what I'm thinking and work at a medium company or even a smaller company. Think about that. Do I want to work in the public arena or the private arena? That's also something to think about. And do I want to do full-time or part-time? Do I want to become a consultant where I work for myself and I can have contract services with other companies? Do I want to own my own store or my own business? Do I want to do service-related companies? Is that where I want to work? Do I want to work for a not-for-profit? Do I want to work in the healthcare industry? That's a hot industry, obviously, today. So is green energy. That's another hot industry to look at. The education industry. I just look back and I'm thinking about the people today who are home with their kids and trying to teach their kids. And as much as schools are closed, everyone has to come with homework. There's a need now, today and tomorrow, for education. In looking at that, what I did, I went out to Google and I did a search and I said this in Google. I'd like to know in the New York metro area, jobs for people 55 and over. That was my criteria. And what I came out with were the following, and this is just a sample. I had over 8 pages of jobs: administrative assistant, paralegal, office manager, teacher, driver, tutor, event planner, tour guide, travel agent, nurse, medical assistant, physical therapist, personal financial advisor, accountant, bookkeeper, insurance agent, real estate agent, dental hygienist, EMT, dietitian, chef, website developer, writer, fundraiser. These are just some of them that I selected, and this was within the first 2 pages. There were 8 pages of jobs today of people 55 and over. Go out to Google, take a look at it. Then you can do some further searches as companies that cater to people over a certain age, and you'll get a list for that also. You could also use the research librarians who you can contact via, social media today to get out, or Zoom to get into these people through emails. All right, so there's different ways to do it. There are plenty of different jobs. Generally, if you look at this list, a lot of these are service-related positions. So think about that. You might have to have a mindset change, but be open to it. This is what's going on today. How do you avoid age discrimination on your resume? Now, what I would say, emphasize the last 10 to 15 years. Numerous people just put the last 10 to 15 years on it. My personal preference, I say show experience, prior to that. And I do it because, from my standpoint, I believe in full disclosure. And what I would do is that I would emphasize the last 10 to 15 years, but then I would have a section that I would say prior experience. And all I would do in prior experience is list the company name, the position, and the dates that I worked there. Okay. This would show the progression that you had through your career. It would show you how you progress from a leadership standpoint. It also will show, that you had a consistent background. And what you want to do on your resume is highlight your achievements that are still relevant today. Now, you might have done something in the past that was great when you did it, but today, with all the technology, people could just, get an app to do what you did before. But highlight what's still relevant and show that you've done something. I create what I call PAR-Vs, little stories, little bullets that talk about the problem, an action I took for the problem, the result of the action that I took related to the problem. And then what I add to it is what's called a V, the V for value to the company. This is what the company was able to achieve from the result that my action had to the problem. It's the value to the company that's really important. And you should highlight that. And what you can do is on your resume, have a section up near the top, call it major accomplishments or major achievements, and have 3 or 4 bullets. And what I recommend, if you have it that way, do not include the name of the company where it was done. Just put the bullet on what you've achieved and the value to the company, and repeat that bullet under the company section where you actually name the company. This will get somebody to read through your resume. I say don't leave dates off your resume for college or work experience. That's my philosophy. Why have people try to guess? Generally today, when dates are missing, the general assumption is you're hiding something. And generally what you're hiding is your age. List your competencies that are relevant to the position. All your resumes should be tailored to the job specs. Use today's email addresses. I would try to stay away from AOL. If you have an AOL account, why don't create a Gmail account just for your job search? For your mobile numbers, get rid of the parentheses or the dashes. Generally use it this way with dots. Show your LinkedIn URL and any Twitter addresses that you have on your resume. If you put Twitter, people just, there's a connotation, you're up to technology, you're pretty hip. So put that in, even if you don't tweet, just have an account. And avoid the red flag terminology. It's generally up in your top summary. I see a lot of people write, 25 years experience in the transportation industry. Well, what happens in the 26th year? If you have to work then, what do? You could put, highly experienced, get away from the numbers at that point up in the top, the broadcast that you're older in this different environment. Try to keep it in without the number of years. You don't want to highlight that per se. To conclude, what I just want to talk about is that ageism exists in the marketplace today. Be cognizant of that. It is there, no matter what you think about. You might say it doesn't affect me. It does. It is out there. Recognize how people look at ageism, their perceptions of what you are. You're tired, you're unhealthy, you're not willing to work with younger people, you cannot accept new technology, you cannot adjust to changes, you cannot work with younger people, with multi-generation people. Get rid of that, recognize it, and basically you have to address it so that it becomes a positive from what you do, not a negative. Present your age as your strength. It's your experience. It's your reliability. You've been that. You're battle tested. You've done that. You've done it successfully. You'll do it again. You can mentor different people along the lines. Okay? They don't have to invest in your training per se because you've done that. Develop your tools in your target companies. A powerful resume, a powerful LinkedIn profile. Look for your target companies. Look for those companies that do not discriminate against age, and you could find it. Look for the small or medium-sized companies. Look for positions that you want. I mean, in today's environment, there's like 30 million people or so now that are unemployed. Something like that, I think the number was. There's going to be a tendency just to get to a position, just to get a paycheck. What I suggest you do, think about where you're at right now. It's a good time to reflect and look at it and say, what do I want to do? I want to do something that I like to do. It might be a change for you, but think about it and look for those positions that you want. Examine the different types of jobs that are available. ABC, everybody. Always be connecting with your network. Always. Especially today, it's very easy. Just send them a letter, an email. You can do it in LinkedIn if you're connected. If you haven't spoken with a person for a while, if the person's in your network, fine, just email them. If the person isn't in your network and you want to reconnect with these people, you can find them either on LinkedIn or in Google, and then write them a line. You can just basically say, listen, I've been thinking about you, especially in today's environment. Hopefully you're safe and healthy. What's going on? Just leave it like that and then start a dialogue, start a conversation, reconnect with people. Always be positive, everybody. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Everybody here will land. We're going to get over this situation and we'll be better for it. Just remember, everyone here is unique, just as the different jobs are unique. And the two most important words to carry, it depends. It depends upon the circumstances. This is not cookie cutter situation. There is no rules in networking, no rules on how to find a job. Think strategically, use your creativity, do different things to get to the position. You will land, everybody, as long as you want to land and you pursue it. This is my contact information if you want. We're open for other questions.
Okay, I'll go through that right now. Marty, I am so glad that you put "it depends," because every time I say that, I reference you. I think it should be trademarked. You should probably get a nickel every time someone says it at this point.
Okay, my cup is here. Start donating.
The only thing is social distancing doesn't allow me to bring my nickel to your house.
Okay.
Let's see. Do you put full disclosure on LinkedIn also, or just on your resume? That's from Sybil.
That's a very good question. Bear in mind, LinkedIn is really a marketing tool. That's really what it is. It's not a resume holder. And that's subjective to what you want to do. You do not have to have on LinkedIn all the details necessarily that you would have on your resume. In writing it, what you would do, you don't have to put all the dates down. You can just put your experience if you want. But look at it. Number one, that's if you have your picture, it solves a problem out there if there's age discrimination. If you don't have a picture, your likelihood of being selected when recruiters look at LinkedIn is going to be more difficult. So I think your picture will tell a story.
And actually, a picture is one of the required elements to have a full LinkedIn profile. So you do need a picture for that reason. Don't ignore it. Or not having a 100% complete LinkedIn profile means when someone searches for a person like you, you don't have the opportunity to come to the top of the list. The 100% complete profiles we know come up first. Okay, let's see. If you include your last job from 10 to 15 years ago, you may have had an SVP title, which can date you too. So I guess it's more a statement, not a question.
Yeah, but what difference does that make? All right. And that this was a position you had a position of leadership. It shows that you've done some really good things. Okay? And once again, it's a matter of the type of position you look for. Okay, you can be flexible as to the responsibilities and what you want. Just because you've been an SVP doesn't necessarily mean, okay, that that's the next job that you're going to get. And at the same time, as we said before, okay, titles, you can have different responsibilities for different titles. So I would not be worried about that. This is what your position was, and I would show it accordingly.
Yvonne has a question. I saw a job posting that stated they prefer recent college graduates. Needless to say, I didn't apply. Is this legal?
It was preferred. That would be more of a question for the lawyers, okay? But you could tell where they were going with this situation. And it could be that the job that they wanted was like a beginner's type of position. Maybe that's why they were asking for that. But it wasn't that that was a requirement.
Okay. From Ksenia, if you enter dates on the resume, they'll know your age. So how are you avoiding age discrimination?
Well, basically what you're doing, you are showing on your dates, there's a consistency of that you worked, okay? At the same time, the big thing about age, to show your age, is in that top summary, so to speak, where you start saying how many years of experience you've had. What'll generally happen, you want to emphasize, once again, the last 10 to 15 years, okay? And then just show the other positions with the dates. Look, you're not going to change your age. Your age is what it is. But what you want to do, you want to emphasize a certain part of your age, okay, which is really the most recent 10 to 15 years. But by showing the rest of it prior, you eliminate the questions of when did this person start, okay, what is this person's history? I can tell you I have I've interviewed numerous people in my career. And sometimes when I was in charge of HR, yeah, they'd have to come through me. But at different places where I wasn't in charge of HR or administration, people would bring the people to me who they were interviewed for like a last shot. It seems I have this, I'll call it this extra sense. And I would look at a resume without some dates, like for instance, no college date, and the first position that I look, and see, well, vice president. And by the time, I'm through with the person and talking with them, and I bring them back to their office who they're going to, leave with, and then that person says to me, well, what do you think? When are we going to hire him? Well, we're not going to hire him because this person's been in jail. It happened already 3 times in my interviewing. As an aside, I was asked to, just take a look at people, and from their resume, this is what happened. And they say to me, the person who was going to hire them, how did you know that? Who told you that? It's not on the resume. Well, obviously, it's not going to be on a resume. But then I basically, people just told me that when I asked the questions. So when you leave gaps, in my opinion, you're open for questioning.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, what else are you hiding? From Lucius, do the federal and state governments have similar levels of ageism as the private sector?
That's a good question. I'm not sure, but I would venture to say generally what happens is that based upon the job requirements, it falls in certain ages. But officially, they're not going to tell you, they're not going to say, if you're over 60 or so, you can't work here.
Okay. Sandra asks, how do you address the interview question, why you left your last job if it was due to illness? Again, a little off topic, but I guess you can touch on it.
Well, look, basically it depends upon the illness, on you. First of all, they're not necessarily allowed to ask a question like that. but you're not going to say, well, you really can't, ask that question. I would just try to say, well, if it was you, you had an illness, you're over with it, you're back. How does that relate to you working going forward? You're healthy. This is what you do. So I would just try to make it short and sweet and just move on. If it was because of an illness of someone you had to take care of because of their illness, I would indicate at that point that, look, I was a caregiver for this person over this period of time. That person is now, whatever, well, or unfortunately, maybe passed away, and it's no longer an issue, and I want to get back in the workforce.
Other questions? Let's see. How to address? Oops, that was the same one. If you were asked your age in an interview, how would you handle the question? It seems to be a theme here, Marty.
Yeah, sure. Look, first of all, they are not in today's environment. Okay, they're not allowed to ask, especially in New York, New Jersey, your age or your most recent salary. They're not allowed to ask that. All right. Now, generally, what will happen to people in HR, they know how to interview and not ask these questions. It's when you get beyond that possibly this will be coming up in an interview. And, what you could basically say would be, well, the question you asked really, and you could say jokingly, is not really a question that, can be legally asked in an interview. However, I will tell you, from my standpoint, that I am in good health. I work very well. I could get the job accomplished. And, I don't think it's relevant to the position that you're looking for.
Okay.
That's how or basically, if you want, you can tell them. Okay. They're gonna, what happens when you fill out your job application, generally, when you have to do that, they're going to know how old you are anyway. Okay. But what you want to do, you want to try to take that out of the conversation completely because it doesn't become relevant. You want to focus on the job responsibilities and your ability to carry out those job responsibilities.
And actually, I think you've just answered this question. Is it illegal to ask for a birth date, including year, also graduation dates?
Well, graduation dates, they could ask that, okay, I believe, but it's generally on the job application anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Right. Let's see. For a video interview, does wearing a headset scream that you are old?
That's a good one. Hey, Dave, you wearing a headset? I'm just curious.
No, I got an earpiece.
Okay,
And,
look,
for the record, a couple weeks ago, I turned 60. And actually, the silver lining is I can go into Trader Joe's earlier.
That's one of the advantages you have. Okay.
Yeah.
But look, that's a subjective question. Okay. It's up to you. There's pluses and minuses, but I don't think by wearing a headset you're considered old. Okay, I really, personally, I don't think so. Especially if you look at, a number of the people in the younger generations, they're always walking around with earplugs. All right. So I don't think that's going to really make a difference. From an appearance standpoint, if you could do without a headset during a virtual interview, I would not wear a headset. I think to some extent it will just detract from the conversation a bit. That's about all. But otherwise, it's up to you.
Okay. That was a private question to me. Let's see. And I'm kind of thinking, I think the headset shows that, yeah, you are younger, you're using technology. I don't think it's an issue at all, or at least, I used to hire people when I was in corporate. I would not have thought negative about that myself.
It's a subjective type question. That's really what it is.
I was recently asked directly by a recruiter, how old are you? I tried to answer as positively as I could, but what should have been a good response? He told me hiring company cannot ask that question, but that he could. I did not want to lose the opportunity of being presented to his client. So I'm assuming that's an external recruiter asked the question.
I would think so, based upon that. Look, when you're dealing with recruiters, well, there are good recruiters and there are bad recruiters. Let's look at it that way. Recruiters ask you questions so they could determine where they could possibly place you with the clients that they have. They could ask you on your salary. Okay? You have to develop a relationship with the recruiter. All right. If a recruiter asks me for my age, I'm gonna tell them. Okay. If they want to know what my last salary was, I'm gonna tell them, because it will help them be able to slot me in with with the job opportunities that I set in front of them. Remember, what most recruiters, you have two types of recruiters, obviously. You have the executive search group. They get paid by the client if they are successful or not in helping the client hire somebody. And then you have the contingent recruiters. The contingent recruiters only get paid by the company if they place you in the company. So it is the advantage of the recruiter to be able to put the right person into their clients, and they want to know as much as they can about you if you're the proper fit for their client. Remember, you never pay the bill of a recruiter. It's always the client, the company that pays. You don't do that. And, it helps you and it helps the recruiter know the most about each other, so that they could look at their the jobs that they get from their clients and see if you will fit in.
Okay, thank you. From Richard, what is the best way to get feedback and why you were not selected for a job?
You could ask, certain questions. Basically, that you during the interview, so to speak. Well, rephrase the question, Dave, for saying, is this after you were told that you didn't get the job, or during the interview?
I'm reading it word for word. What is the best way to get feedback and why you were not selected for a job? So I'm assuming it's after an interview or interview process. That's what I would assume.
Okay.
And Richard was not selected.
Well,
and now Richard just wrote after. Yeah, so he wrote back after.
Okay, what you could ask is, say, listen, I understand you've hired someone else, and that's fine. I'd still like to work at your company should the opportunity occur. I'd really like to be able to check back with you and on a quarterly basis, if that's okay for you. At the same time, would you be able to tell me why there was a selection of this other person as opposed to me? Okay. Is there something that I could have done better to show that I was a proper individual candidate for this position? You could ask some questions to ask for their feedback. In all likelihood, you probably are not going to get it, okay? But you can always ask, you never know.
I had developed an opinion on that very long line, ask. But also, my opinion is, don't dwell on it. And the reason why is, first of all, you may not get the answer that really went on. If they said, well, you're just way too old, and they're not going to tell you that. So they may tell you something constructive, like, we were really looking for someone with strong Salesforce experience. It doesn't matter. If you don't have the Salesforce experience, you couldn't get that job. And the next company that you interview with may not need Salesforce experience. So there's not a lot of answers that you're going to get that really from a hiring manager or hiring company that can be constructive criticism. So my opinion is, don't dwell on it too much. But I like Marty's approach. Try to get that answer if it's important.
Well, let me just relate a real quick story in that, there's always been a debate, on dates on the resume. And I have a friend of mine who is a contingent recruiter. And what's happened is that he called me one day and he said, I have a client who's looking to buy a company right now. And from what the job description is, what they need somebody like you. Do you have a resume? Would you be interested in looking for this position? And he told me about the position. I said, sure. And I thought about it, and he wanted my resume. And during this time, everybody was saying, well, don't include your date, include your date. My resumes all have my date. But under the circumstances, I said, you know what? I took off my college graduation day, took it off. And my prior experience, I took off the dates that I worked. I just had the name of the company and the position. I sent it to my friend who knew who I am and knew how old I was, and sent it to his client. And his client was really excited when he got my paperwork. We set up a meeting. We had a breakfast meeting. We're sitting down for breakfast, and we go over, what the job is and what my history has been, where I work, how I would be able to handle some of the problems that he was going to face if he got this company. And he was really, really excited. And then he says to me, he says, well, let me ask you something. When could you start? And I said, well, it's customary to give 2 weeks notice, but in my position, I like to give 3 weeks notice if that's okay with you. And he said, that's great. That'll work out. And he said, let me look. And he looks back at my resume and he starts going through my resume. And he goes to the last page and he looks at my college. And he says, when did you graduate college? Okay. And I told him. And this is what he did. He then looks at his watch and he said, listen, I'm really sorry. I forgot about it. I have a meeting with one of my lawyers. I got to leave. And he picks up, excused himself, paid for the bill, and he left. Okay. That afternoon, I called my friend, and this was on a Friday. And I said, hey, Bob, I really like the position. It sounds real good. But so-and-so, left abruptly and just, he said that, the timing would be right, et cetera. Do you get any feedback from the guy? And Bob said, you know what? I understand he had to fly out somewhere. I'll find out on Monday. So it comes Monday. Bob gives me a call. And he says, Marty, listen, it's just not a good fit. And I said, not a good fit? He says, yeah, it's just not a good fit. I said, Bob, let me ask you something. And this friend of mine, does not a good fit have anything to do with my college graduation day? And he said, well, we really can't discuss that. And it was left like that. So, sometimes when you seek feedback, as you say, Dave, you're not going to get the real feedback, but this is what happens. So think about that as you go through.
Well, Marty, thank you. We have no other questions coming in, so we will move on right now. And I'll leave your contact information slide up there.
Okay.
Good. And just give us a few minutes to wrap up the meeting. But Marty, thank you so much. I've seen this presentation before. I think it's powerful, besides just enjoyable to watch, but incredibly relevant information. Think about ways to deflect whatever can be an issue of concern for you. And for those of us that are 40 and older, or whatever industry we're in, it could be ageism, but you want to get on getting your information out, what's positive, what's all about you, what's relevant for the job. You want to put yourself in a very positive light. And this one for ageism relates to a lot of us in the job market, maybe everyone on this call today. One thing Marty mentioned was getting comfortable with technology. He gave us a couple suggestions. If you're not yet comfortable or you're not familiar with how some of these tools and programs work, it can be another elephant in the room. It could just be overwhelming. It could be a lot to think about how to get started. So start with one. Pick one that you think may be relevant in your industry or by what the companies in your industry use or people in your role use. Just start one and get comfortable with it. Because if you can just start with that one, it's a lot easier than trying to think about if there's 2, 3, 10, 20 tools that are out there. So just pick one, start getting a little comfortable, and the one you want to do or use is the one that's most relevant to your field and your type of companies that you're applying to. Marty talked about alternate type of work, part-time, temp, and consulting. Strongly consider that. And some of you know I'm a big advocate of considering working as a consultant. And people that don't or deflect that are saying, but I need benefits. I get that. I have been there before too. If you are not considering consulting or part-time or temp employment, your wait for full-time may be longer, which means you're paying for those benefits and other expenses out of your pocket. At least you'll be working part-time. Maybe you'll be learning a new skill professionally. You'll fill a gap on your resume. But if money's coming in, even if they're not giving you benefits, you can pay for the benefits out of the new salary that you're bringing in. And Marty also gave us one of 8 pages of opportunities now. New Jersey State has actually recently posted a list of companies that are hiring now amid COVID-19. I did put that link on the PSG of Mercer County LinkedIn group probably a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So look at the discussions in our group, scroll down. A lot of these are the temp and part-time type work, maybe not in your career, but they are going to keep you busy. They'll keep you an income coming in. They'll fill a resume gap, so you may want to go look at those as well. So those are just some my summary and observation points to Marty's wonderful presentation. I want to let you know what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we will be right back online. We're having a lot of success and fun with this, so I'm glad we're able to do that and offer that to folks. I was watching the count. We were way over 100 today, so we're getting some good attention. Next week, Michael Goldberg will be here, Knockout Networking. That is such a wonderful presentation, and I think it's very timely as a 1-2 punch, pun intended, between the Ageism program that Marty had and to go more deeply into networking as a means to deflect any issues that may be out there, why a hiring manager would not want to hire you. Networking allows them to know you, allows you to be in the back of their mind, and he's got some really terrific advice, Coach Michael Goldberg. Knockout Networking next week, May 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning. The following week, May 22nd, Amy Raditz, coach and VP at Lee Hecht Harrison, the outplacement company Lee Hecht Harrison, will be here. She'll be talking about Who Am I Anyway? And it's a program really meant to help you discover and communicate and leverage your unique talents, your qualities, your passions that really are going to set you apart from others in that job search. So it really very important, kind of along the lines of self-assessment, but a real simple yet powerful program. And that's next week for PSG, May 22nd, 10 o'clock in the morning. Other programs that are coming up, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey will be meeting tomorrow morning. Get up extra early, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be talking about certifications. Sharon Busey is going to talk about advanced, secure, or transition your career with high demand certifications. And so if you want the information to connect, it's going to be a virtual meeting tomorrow at 8 o'clock. It is free. Visit their website, thebreakfastclubnj.com, thebreakfastclubnj.com. From the homepage, you click on more information about the presentation, and the link is going to be there as well. One of our cousin organizations, PSG of Central New Jersey, on Monday will be having a meeting called Mastering the Interview. It's also going to be virtual. So check their website, psgcnj.biz. And don't forget, Careers in Transition meets every first and third Saturday of the month at 8:30 in the morning. So next Saturday, not tomorrow, next Saturday is the third Saturday of the month. And so search for Careers in Transition Short Hills on Google. You can also go to the Christchurch website, Christchurch in Short Hills. The Career CIT group does have a page in the Christchurch website because the group is part of their ministry. So
you could also, for CIT, Dave, what we do, we also have a meetup group. And what we ask you to do is that we have now started with a sign-up sheet that starts on Sunday evening. There's a cutoff for attendance at the meeting the Friday evening before the meeting. And we have generally cut that off at 6 o'clock.
Terrific, thank you. Marty is most often there. That's where I first got to meet Marty, and it's been my pleasure. It's worked out very well for me, both as a group that provided me value at the time and having a relationship with Marty and others that I've met there. So as a reminder, the slide deck for this is now on our website. It's psgofmercercounty.org. On the right side of every page, you'll see a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. Those are the presentation documents for each meeting. And you click on that link and Marty's will be there right on top. The prior weeks are each week or each line below that from each week. And each of our last 6 or 7 weeks of our videos are recorded. They are now on our YouTube channel. You can get to that from the right sidebar of our website. There's an icon for YouTube, the logo. Just click on that. You could also search in YouTube for PSG of Mercer County. This presentation will probably be there late this afternoon or this evening because there's some time that we need to process that. And as a reminder, feel free to join our LinkedIn group, also called PSG of Mercer County, and you can participate in discussions there. So that's our meeting today, folks. I want to thank everybody for participating. I appreciate all the questions, wonderful questions that you've had. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Marty. This was terrific. Certainly appreciate your time and participating with us once again.
Thank you, David. Thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it.